Well, hi. Hey, I'm back in the shop today. Yesterday, you might remember that we talked a little bit about gluing and laminating your boards together and clamping them up and that whole process. Today, we're going to show you what the next two steps are, which are scraping and planing. And these are pretty physical and they're hard work, but it will make it so this board looks amazing when we're done. So, a couple things we have going on here. I want to remind you that yesterday I glued this up in a repeating pattern, meaning the board looks the same whether I turn it both ways. The two outside pieces are the same, and those are grandis. Inside here is some white oak, and then right in here in the middle is some cherry. And so that is my glued up board 24 hours after I clamped it. A couple things that you're going to notice is that there's little tiny glue droplets that came out of the bottom of our board. And so today we're going to show you guys what we do to deal with those, okay? So I'm going to take my board here and set it down. I'm going to switch out my reading glasses for a pair of safety glasses, and you want to make sure you're wearing your safety glasses because as I scrape this board, these little particles of glue are going to come flying off of there, and you don't want to end up with one of them in your eye. So the way this basically works, this is called a glue scraper, okay, and I went and bought a whole bunch of these for you guys. I will get them all decontaminated and ready for you this next week or so. But let's talk about the way this has worked. It's a two-hand operation. So one hand, you're going to press down on the scraper and you're going to pull it backwards. And at the same time you're doing that, I always tell kids, I put as much weight right up here on the head of that as I possibly can. The more weight you have on it, the better the job it's going to do, okay? So right now, I'm just holding onto the board, sitting here doing this, and it's working okay, but it's not working great. We have to get any glue that you can physically see, every last drop of it has to be removed before we can put it through the machine called the planer. And the reason we do that is if glue is sticking up on the surface or you can see glue, when we put it through that machine, one of two things is going to happen. Okay? The first thing that we have to worry about is that when the cutter in the machine comes around very frequently because it's spinning really, really quick, if it hits that glue, it's going to either A, grab that glue and use it as a anchor point to yank a big chunk of wood out of your lumber, and that would be bad. You'd have a big missing void. So that's one reason to get all the glue off. The other thing that can happen is maybe this time instead of it grabbing the glue, it just puts a big dent right in our cutters. And when we put a big dent in the cutters like that, that means every board that goes through there for the rest of its life until we put new cutters on is going to have a little hump or a little ridge running down their board, and we don't want that either, okay? So we want to make sure that we have this thing dialed in and that 100% of the glue is removed from here. The way I typically do this is I'm going to stand up and I'm going to put the board up against my leg. Okay, and I'm a little taller than you guys, so this works. If you're too short to put it up against your leg and do it, then just simply take a stool or a clamp and clamp the table to the bench, and that works too. So I'm going to take my scraper, and again, good sharp edge. I'm going to place it down on the board, and then I'm just going to pull back pretty fast, and that will draw that glue off of there. To give you an idea how much time we're talking about, for me to sit down and scrape this entire board from start to finish on both sides, it's probably going to take me 20 minutes, okay? And that's faster than most because I do a lot of this, and I'm pretty good at it. For you guys, I'm guessing to get all the glue off, 45 minutes to an hour of scraping. So what we'll do is we'll have you wear gloves, and you and your partner will switch back and forth, taking turns because it is tiring. It wears you out pretty quickly, and your goal is to get all that glue off. So you can see here that those glue bumps, you know, if they're good and dry, they pop off there pretty good. But you got to make sure you get down in the cracks and get all the edges and get in there and get all the glue off, okay? So that's our first mission, is to get 100% of the glue off of our board so that we can run it through the next stage, which is called a planer. Okay, so let me show you the planer. So I'm back over at the planer. Let me show you a little bit of how this works. This is called a DeWalt planer, 13-inch planer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my board, we're going to put it through this machine, and right now this board is 3/4 of an inch thick, and those boards aren't perfectly even. So our goal here is to put it through here, and we're going to keep running it through one surface after another until we get it down to a 1/2 inch thick. So what we're going to do is this control here, as I turn it, is going to lower the head of this thing and make the board thinner, okay? So I'm going to turn it on. It's kind of loud. And as you can see, it came out pretty smooth. Needs a couple more passes. Be patient. It takes several passes through here. Because remember, we're taking a third of this board, turning it into sawdust. All right. So what I was able to do is take that board that was a little over 3/4 of an inch thick, where these surfaces weren't all flush and smooth, and plane it down and get a totally smooth board out of it that looks really good. See how it's nice and flat on both sides? So this is what we're going to mill a couple napkin holders out of. And the next step is to show you how to lay out your materials. Here are a couple other samples that I've done. This one was from last year, and this one has some walnut, some cherry, and some purple heart. And that purple color is actually the color of the wood. It's not dyed or stained that color. Here's one that has a little walnut, a little oak, and then in the middle, that orangey color is called Paducah or Paduke. And then here's another one. This one is, here's a better side. So you can see the Paducah on the outside, some oak in the middle, and purple heart in the inside. And this one turned out really nice, but sometimes, and if you look here, see how there's a crack in that? It just cracked. Don't know why. But so our goal is to get you in the first couple weeks of school, get your boards glued, get them scraped, get them planed, so we can start the next steps of building your napkin holder. All right? All right. Hey, see you on the next one.